think 5 years now or so that I've been the campaign training chair. One of the key themes comes back to just continuing to have an opportunity to talk about what works, and what you can do to get new ideas to bring to your campaigns. Obviously, with things being more remote and us still being in the pandemic and various coming in and out of that and being a little bit more in a dynamic situation, obviously that brings new challenges to hosting campaigns in a classic way. So I thought last year we had really great discussions around ideas on how to deal with that dynamic and do things in a way that still brings teams together, but doesn't, isn't sort of a campaign in the classic sense. So there was a lot of good ideas discussed last year. I'd like to hopefully facilitate getting back into those kind of discussions again as part of this training this year. And then, these are always a great chance to just understand what the United Way is working on. And, it's always powerful to be able to bring that message back to your campaign. And so I think this is always a good chance to have that opportunity to engage with Jesse and the team on the work that the United Way is doing in the community, and to be able to speak passionately about that as you bring that message back to your teams and your campaigns, in your workplace. So anyway, that's just was my thoughts on this as we kick off another round of these trainings. And so I think obviously we'll go with the flow where we're Jesse's talking about the work the team is doing, and then we'll get into, as Carrie said, a discussion about SymQuest's campaign last year, and then tools that the United Way can bring into your campaigns, and how that can be used to facilitate your campaigns. And then obviously throughout all of that, it's always worked well to have those be open discussions and ask questions, and bring your thoughts and questions into that discussion. So once we get past Jesse, I think we should consider it sort of an open forum. So please jump in and ask questions and make this a discussion. And with that, I'll introduce Jesse to talk about what the United Way is working on this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I mentioned to a few people yesterday, it is the boxes are getting tiresome. Maybe they've gotten tiresome. Maybe we've come back around again like 6 times, right? But we are certainly excited to have this year ahead of us. I'm so excited to see so many people on this call today, to talk and connect on the work that we've been doing. And I think that I will echo what Chris said in terms of ask your questions. You don't have to wait until after I'm done talking to ask questions. In fact, if you have questions about our work or some of these kind of overarching pieces, those are things that please bring up. Please interject, so that we can go through them in real time, because we know this organization can be complex, and there's a lot going on, and so we're trying to make it easy for you, and in particular, we want to make sure that we make it so that you have the right tools. Which includes the information on what we do, right? It's not just the digital tools are helpful, but what the heck is United Way? Our campaign theme this year is about rebuilding better together. The pandemic, as we've said, really laid bare a lot of inequities within our community. Whether it be health disparities, economic disparities, and in particular, the racial disparities. The only way in which we are going to build back to a better community is doing that together. We don't want to accept that we'll just reopen the shelters and reopen the food shelves and everything will go back to being fine. Because food shelves and shelters are not an equitable way to be distributing housing and food. And they are certainly not providing housing or food security. And I know all of our shelter and food shelf partners would say the same thing. They're not in the business of wanting to stay in business, right? And so really thinking about how we continue to take advantage of the times that we have in order to rethink how we deliver certain things. And then for whom are we delivering them? So really taking an equity lens to heart, addressing things like systemic racism as core to how we address food insecurity, housing insecurity, and our health outcomes will be really important. For some of you, this is a refresher. United Way exists at the intersection of business, government, and the nonprofit sectors. And we're there to mobilize all those people to come together, with our community to address these multiple different strategies that we have, which I'll talk about in a second. And we do that through a number of these different pillars. And we show you this so you understand that United Way is maybe more than the one thing that you know it for, or the one way in which you've interacted with it, certainly. But I think that these are really kind of the key overarching areas that are important to understand. Campaign, you're in it, you're doing it. One of the big tenets of campaign that we really want you to understand is it is as much about educating our community about what's happening so that they can engage in different ways as it is about raising money. The money is incredibly important, and I see a few of our partners on the call here that'll tell you that the funding that we've been able to provide in the past year has made an incredible impact, which is pillar 2, funding. Programmatic funding, this past year, organizational funding. We are leading the way in trust-based philanthropy, using flexibility and understanding and relationships as key to how we go about providing resources and leveraging resources throughout our community. It's not just about distributing funds and then holding people accountable to how they use those funds. It's about partnering. It's about the right dollars at the right time, having an incredible leveraging and fulcrum impact, right, to create more opportunities, unlocking, right, freeing up resources that might not have otherwise been freed up. And philanthropy and flexible philanthropy has an incredible power to do that. We're also funding things like systems change. So really looking at how we invest in not just how we continue to keep doing what we've been doing, but as I was discussing before, how we rebuild better together. Volunteer mobilization, we continue to utilize volunteers as best we can in the pandemic times and encourage safe volunteering in a number of places and ways. We run 2 senior core programs, helping older adults get out and volunteer, and in particular, helping them help kids in our schools and our preschools to deal with learning outcomes and different changes along the way. General volunteer mobilization, helping our partners like AgeWell recruit hundreds of volunteers to make it possible to deliver meals, whether it be pre-pandemic or during the pandemic, or hopefully someday after the pandemic. Working Bridges seeks to connect people to the resources that are here in our community. It is our partnership with organizations, workplaces like Rhino Foods, hi Tammy, that make it possible for us to connect people to the existing programs and resources that are within our community, helping to navigate all the different services and programs and resources that are out there that help them be employed, stay employed, be successful when they are at work, be focused when they are at work. And it really holds that we can take care of the people who do the work as much as the work itself, and we're all better off for that. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about this, but the access to the information, the access to the resources is as important as the resources themselves. So you can't just fund things and just have all these programs out there if people don't have a means to engage in and work within them. And that speaks to the equity issues, racial disparity in particular, where access has not been equitable throughout our history. And so working to dismantle that has to be continue to be a priority for us. Backbone convening and community collaborations is another big pillar of our work. If you're familiar with our work in the Opiate Alliance, to really highlight for the community the issue of opiates, to work on strategies that not only address prevention and misuse, but also how do we help people recover? How do we help people that are on medically assisted treatment access that treatment? How do we help families support their loved ones through that? Our work around the Homeless Alliance and in helping to make homelessness rare and brief in our community. And in the future here, we're working on a number of issues around workforce development. We're going to be working on issues around mental health, and we're going to be working on issues around racism. And then Common Good, it's a recent pillar of our work. Common Good is the education advocacy organization for the state of Vermont. We have merged with them to provide that resource for nonprofits throughout the state to help to engage the nonprofit workforce, to build a stronger nonprofit workforce, as well as to advocate for the nonprofit sector, which is quite large in our state. Key strategies, these are the key strategies that are determined by our community. So this is through an extensive community outreach process, how we determine what our key strategies are. And these have not changed. So if you've been working with us, this information will be in your Keyperson guide, and you'll have all that information as we move forward. But we work in those pillars to address these key strategies, meeting basic needs. And when we talk about that, we're talking about food and transportation, housing, of course, as we've talked quite a bit about, supporting families. So we talk a lot about, you hear a lot of talk about kids and otherwise, but supporting dynamic family circumstances, right? And not just what might be our traditional view of what a family looks like. Promoting mental health being a huge piece of what we're working on in the year ahead. Advancing employment, as I talked about, through Working Bridges, and then continuing our work on reducing substance misuse. And we've been doing some great work in this past year, helping to build a more cohesive approach to prevention efforts, particularly for youth in our community. Any questions? I'm doing my usual talk fast, so give me a slow down if you need it. Good. All right. Got a few cameras on, which is nice too. I get to see some faces. All right. So getting into a few of the key areas that we think would be important for you to be talking about in your workplaces and sharing about the work and what the impact of giving and the impact that participating in this community philanthropy can have in the community. During COVID, we really had to pivot even in our own workplace, and we were able to do so really successfully to help raise over $600,000 from a number of individual donors, crowdfunding that was supported by dollar-for-dollar matches by a couple of generous families, corporate gifts. Number of your companies stepped up with additional gifts this time last year to make it possible for us to put additional infusion of flexible philanthropy out into the community. We were able to distribute grants to over 40 programs and organizations throughout the region. In the initial phases of the pandemic, it was about response and moving really quickly. I mentioned AgeWell again because they were literally one of the first grant recipients, because we knew right off the bat, getting food and getting connected to our older adults was just a huge issue for our community. And I think the initial spike in Meals on Wheels was like 40%, Tracy, right? We lost 100 volunteers on day one of the stay home order. Is that correct?
We started at around 26%, and then as we moved along into the spring months, it was closer to 40%. But coupled with the fact that our volunteers could not go and deliver the meals. So we needed a younger volunteer group, because many of the volunteers that serve AgeWell are average age is 70. And with United Way's help, we were able to recruit 300 new volunteers, which is really absolutely outstanding. We can't thank you enough for that support.
And hopefully many of them have stayed on and will continue to recruit more. But if you think about that, losing 100 volunteers in basically a day, because they had to stay home, and then 300 new recruits stepped up, got out there, PPE, fully dressed in PPE, and doing all kinds of different things. We all had to pivot. It was an incredible outreach. When I mentioned before too was that notion of all of these resources are great. Okay, if we have a meal, how do you get it to somebody, right? How do you change the way in which we're distributing resources? So the food shelves couldn't have people just come pick up food anymore. They couldn't have volunteers just come and help package things. And it spurned this opportunity for us to think differently about how we do make it possible for people to be food secure or housing secure. Access to the resources is incredibly important. 211, over 54,000 contacts made is a 50% increase from the previous year. People looking for information and how to access resources. We had a 100% increase in utilization of working bridges. We had more work sites come on and we had higher needs, and we did it all. We had to pivot to doing it all remotely. So I see also food science is on here as well, another working bridges partner. We were helping employees stay employed through the pandemic. If they couldn't, we were helping them navigate unemployment insurance, which was a whole new thing for us. Some of the funding we provided through COVID was to help with language interpretation. Remember how quickly health information was changing on a daily basis last year, and still is, I think, in some ways. There was an outbreak right out of the gate in Winooski last year, and it was large part due to language access barriers. We weren't interpreting the information fast enough. We're putting out great information. Great. We've got all these resources. Great. No good if people can't access the information or know how to navigate the resources. How do you fill out the form to get access to the thing? There are so many barriers that people face in accessing beautiful community resources. We need to figure out how we continue to utilize these type of programs to get access to that. And then one of the beautiful things that we do with programs like Working Bridges is we say, the system doesn't work. We need to change it. So let's innovate. Let's think of new ways. Okay, people can't learn English by going to classes outside of work. It's another thing they've got to transport themselves to. Let's bring English at Work program and classes to the workplace. All of those type of things really lead to a stronger, more robust community. Again, access to resources is as important as the resources themselves. Speaking of resources, United Way is investing over $4 million in the community in the coming year. You will have a nice one-pager on this that shows this very chart, just to kind of explain it to you really quickly. These are all those key pillars that we were talking about and all the different levels of investment that we're making in them. I will say, we did not raise $4.3 million last year. So the key here is that what United Way is able to do, we at that intersection become a fulcrum and a lever and an amplifier of resources. So as resources come through us through the workplace campaign, we're able to put more dollars back out into the community. And in fact, for every dollar raised through the workplace campaign, we're able to put over $3 back into the community. Mentioned community funding, huge number of community funding grants this past year. We actually have distributed over $1.7 million in trust-based flexible community funding in 2021. That's some donor-directed giving. That's our grant making. That's our COVID fundraising. That's some grants that we've been able to secure that have helped with that and enhanced that. In the past, this was solely funded by Workplace Campaign. And workplace giving was down significantly due to the pandemic. This environment didn't work as well for a lot of companies. A lot of companies last fall were still unsure of what things were going to look like for them in January even, right? And so that uncertainty led to individuals feeling like maybe they couldn't contribute this past year. We're hopeful and we're necessary for us to make a change in that as we move forward, because we without those workplace funds, we're not going to have as many of these one-time funds in the coming year. This is the time. We need those donor dollars to step up to give us the leveraging points, the opportunity as we move forward. A significant increase is going to be needed if we're going to keep funding at current levels and unlock all of the other great programs and initiatives that are coming through the federal government, the state, the local government, community action groups, you name it. Another big focus for us in this year ahead, and a key focus that I just wanted to highlight for you right now, is mental health. This has been a key strategy for United Way for a while, and it's the number one identified issue for our hospitals, Northwestern Medical Center and UVMMC. There is a dramatic shortage of providers providing mental health care. There are extensive wait times in the community, in our emergency departments across the state. It has been all over the news. I'm sure many of you have seen the articles about wait times. And it's not just wait times to get access to, dermatology or other things. It is wait times to get into the ED. It's wait times to see child psychologists. We have suicide as the 8th leading cause of death in Vermont. We can do a lot, and we'll talk more about what some of the things that we're going to do. This is something that's preventable. This is something that we can address as a community. And again, the urgency and needs have been exacerbated. These issues have existed before. So there's always been an issue with wait times for kids to see, child psychologists, and waiting in the ED for days. It's been an issue for over a decade, actually, as we've learned. But it's off the charts now, right? All that backlog of people's care that they couldn't receive, all these other things. And so now it's, people are coming with more serious problems to our medical providers. So there's an opportunity for us as a community to step up. So crisis services and community outreach need an integrated approach, right? Police and school teachers shouldn't be our frontline responders for mental health issues. They have to understand how to deal with them. They have to have resources to connect to, but it's asking too much on top of what we're asking of them already. I'd add to this list, nurses in our hospitals, right? And all the frontline healthcare workers and all they've been responding. In between treatment needs to have an option. So it's either outpatient or acute care. It's not enough. We have to have community-wide understanding, skills, and resources. I always explain this like health first aid, right? You walk into a restaurant and somebody's going to know what to do if you choke or if you have a heart attack or some other thing happens to you. How do we as a community equip ourselves around mental health first aid and the resources and skills we need so that we can support our neighbors and our families and our coworkers? Primary care screening needs to improve so we can get people support, coping mechanisms, and resources. But again, that's only as successful as our work will be around addressing the shortage of providers. Because if a primary care physician is screening for suicide or other issues, but has nowhere to send that person for the next level of care, what good does the screening do? And the low number of providers and delayed access to treatment is both a major workforce issue and a mental health systems issue. And so it's going to really take an integrated approach to addressing that. So I will stop the share there so I can come on screen. Carrie, I think I'm still okay on time. And see if there's any questions. I'll also just say that I can see so many of my wonderful colleagues on this call as well. You have us as your resources as you go through. We do not expect that you will understand everything that I just talked about in 20 minutes. And that, the idea would be that you find some things, or you find things that your workplace feels like are those most pressing issues and things that really resonate for them. And it's our job to pull all those different pieces together and show you how they intertwine and make that clear to our colleagues as we rally them for support.
Jesse, I would just echo, if there are data points that help you along the way or things you're looking for to sort of talk about the state of the state, each of us probably have a lot of information in our own areas. For instance, at AgeWell, we use Meals on Wheels of America as a guide, along with a couple of other resources, but they do a really great job of quantifying, sort of need and where the risks are. And so I would say, if any of you at United Way along the way need data points from us, I can tell you at AgeWell, we have that really readily available at our fingertips. So it's, I think, reciprocal. We appreciate the information you're sending, but I think we all have a lot of information too that may be helpful to you. So let us know.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I thought, I found that sometimes the information that we're given is very like broad. It's very big picture. And it's sometimes hard for like our employees to kind of like digest that and figure out like, what does that really mean? But then listening to, Tracy speak about, and then Jesse also touched upon it. It's like, so when you have 100 of your volunteers who all of a sudden, don't show up, how are you going to get food? I was thinking, so that would be like at Rhino, if all of a sudden 100 employees didn't show up, we would be totally shut down that day. Like we would not be able to run. I mean, you see it in a slide where, Age Well needs volunteers for the Meals on Wheels program, but it's kind of hard to like digest it and to figure out what it really means. But having that mental picture of 100 employees not showing up, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this happen? I think was very impactful for me anyways. So I think just, little snippets of information like that, I think would go a long way.
Great. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Tammy.
Yeah, really great feedback. And I think, Tammy, that's to your point, it's, and that's where it's important too, as you're talking to Carrie and Cindy and the team, if you know those things that would resonate for your employees, it's I think it's possible for us then to bring that single point or that illustration to you, because we do have partners like Tracy and Age Well and 40 plus other organizations that have been doing that same type of work over the last year, including our own organization and some of the Work and Bridges data that we have that really, they bring it home. And so if we narrow in, we will certainly, I think, make it more relevant for your employees.
Yeah, I think definitely after hearing this, like, especially the one about, the mental health, how suicide is now the, number 8 leading cause of death in Vermont. So that actually does resonate very directly with Rhino. This last month, we did have, an employee pass away from his own hand. So, maybe that is something that we can touch upon, just to get into a little, deeper on that.
Well, mental health is certainly, something we are all talking about for sure. There's no doubt about that. Does anybody else have any questions for Jesse about the information that he shared? Or does anything really resonate with anybody about something he shared?
Everything.
Yeah. Just remember, we do have this recorded, so you can always go back and look at it again if it's something that you're interested in listening to again. So
for the folks at the United Way, it seems like I'm looking at the different organizations that are on this meeting, and we are all dedicated to doing work with the United Way. I'm feeling like there's so many different kinds of businesses here represented. I wonder if the United Way would consider perhaps pulling together, like, maybe not super regular, but a quarterly meeting where we can connect or at least share resources with each other. Because when Tammy was speaking, it just made me think of, I know there are 3 suicide prevention webinars that are coming up for employers to be able to understand, suicide prevention and provide resources to their employees or share it with HR if they're not HR. And I'm just thinking, like, for Tammy, I've never met Tammy, but I'm thinking, oh, Tammy, I can send you information on these kinds of things, or I could send you something about Age Well services that we can provide for many of your new Americans who we support their families and with programs. You may not even know that, but now there's this lovely connection. So I'm wondering if maybe we have a United Way. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, just because I feel like you're bringing all these people together, and I feel like there's a lot we can share. And maybe we're not going to be on, like, I would never see Tammy at a Hunger Council meeting, perhaps, but et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. Just
You're getting
great
right to the
idea.
link, Tracy, right? That's
Oh,
that-
okay,
that
there you
is-
go. All right, I'll
but
shut
that
up
is-
now.
No, it's a great point because it's exactly what I think I was trying to say in terms of, but you said it much more simply, is, in that intersection where we exist. And so, Rhino is, fortunate that they have an on-site resource coordinator with Working Bridges. So they have somebody that knows your resources and knows how to connect employees to what you have. I think I see NMC on here. I mentioned food science and others that have that resource. We also pull together those organizations, staff, HR, and others to quarterly to talk about the issues that we're seeing, and how we can look at whether it's connecting again to the resources that already exist or saying, look, my employees can't take advantage of this resource because of X. So, we've done things like bringing recovery support coaches for substance misuse to the workplace. That's actually another pilot with Rhino where, it's your recovery support coaching is incredibly powerful. Okay, well, now we have to embed this. Now all of our resource coordinators are becoming certified recovery support coaches so that they can provide that resource in addition to the financial coaching, in addition to the coordination. So you've hit it, Tracy. That's the special sauce of United Way, and we'll certainly take under advisement too, maybe some more bigger community business meetings.
Yeah. Great.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
All right, in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and keep going, and feel free to, reach out to Jessie directly. If you have a specific question, don't hesitate. So next up, I'm going to ask Chris Gilman to help me out with this conversation with Alyssa Place from SymQuest. We just thought we don't have slides. This is purely about a 10-minute conversation, really talking about how SymQuest ran last year, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. We heard last year, after last year's training, from different key people that it would have been nice to have been part of more of a conversation instead of a presentation. So Alyssa has graciously agreed to help us out, just because SymQuest isn't a really huge organization, but yet they're not really small. So I felt like people could probably relate to what they're facing over there. She's been a key person for a few years. And so Alyssa, are you with me?
Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Awesome. There you are. So Chris, just, as we're having conversations, don't hesitate to fire questions in here. But we just wanted to have a talk about the SymQuest campaign. So Alyssa, introduce yourself and just tell us how long you've been a key person.
Sure. So this will be my fourth United Way key person year. So I'm excited to bring in two of those. Well, last year was virtual. This will be the second virtual one that we do. But yeah, I'm the marketing specialist at SymQuest. And this will be my fourth year at SymQuest as well. So I've been doing this as soon as I started. So, but yeah, so I'm really excited to do virtual this year. Most of you probably know who SymQuest is, but Printer is an IT company based out of South Burlington, but we have offices in New York, Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire. So we've got lots of branches to consider as well.
Right. So just so some of you know, the one event that SymQuest did a few years ago that I will never forget is going over and watching the technicians be able to sledgehammer some old copiers that they saved, which was a lot of fun. A lot of aggression was taken out. There was a lot of stuff flying around that year, I remember.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. We were able to get an old copier that was unfunctional, not functional anymore, and the company donated it. And we made everyone pay, well, whoever wanted to hit it paid $1 to hit the copier, and people are dropping $5-10 to get so many swings in. So it was a lot of fun.
I just thought that was a hysterical event. It was fun to watch. So tell us about this year's campaign. Tell us about,
Yeah, so last year we kind of tried to keep as much as we have some events that we do every single year. We do raffles every single year, and they tend to pull in a lot of money. So we tried to keep as many events consistent as we could through the virtual event. Obviously, people were not in the office, so we couldn't do events like the Copier Smash, but we wanted to keep it as consistent as possible so that people didn't lose their excitement about what we do for United Way. So we had we do a 50-50 raffle, and then we just do a normal raffle where we either get items donated from our employees or SymQuest purchases items for people to buy raffle tickets for. And so we've done things as big as like a flat screen TV down to small items like $25 gift cards to Amazon or just Visa items as well. And so the raffles are really successful for us. People like to pay for raffle tickets, and that was really easy to coordinate virtually as well. We just came up with Venmo or PayPal so people could pay
that's good.
digitally.
Yeah.
And then one thing that we implemented a couple years ago that's really successful is we actually create a pet calendar, and everyone submits photos of their pets. And then I create a 12-month calendar for the following year, and people pay $5 for a calendar. And so that's a lot, that we get a lot of money from that too.
Yeah, I bet. I know
Mhm.
last year in listening to you talk about the raffle, I know a number of the campaigns I worked with last year really turned it around to focus on supporting the local businesses
Mhm.
and buying gift cards to local restaurants and
Yep.
you know, really trying to turn it around a little bit, which was really interesting. I think people
Yeah,
really
we tried
gravitated to that.
to do the same thing. We got some gift cards to local, locally run restaurants, and then we also supported the beer business for a lot of our employees like alcohol. So we kind of tried to do, like, I think we bought like a 4-pack from Switchback, and then Zero Gravity, all the local breweries. We kind of tried to we created like an alcohol basket that did really well.
Yeah, that's
So yeah.
nice. Challenges?
Coordinating everything via, I mean, we have 150 plus employees. So getting everyone like in a room is difficult as it is because we're across 8 branches, and then turn that to virtual was really hard. So a lot of the communication was via email, and then just having managers encourage their employees to participate because we typically kick it off with everyone in the same room. And so everyone kind of gets the announcement. Carrie, you usually join us, and whoever else from your organization who's relevant that year comes and kind of talks to everyone as a group. But that was definitely hard this year, getting everyone like aware of what we're doing. I'm sure everyone on here gets lots of emails every day. So my emails may have gotten lost in everyone's inboxes. So that was definitely a challenge for us. And then just getting participation because people are tight on money, worried about the pandemic and everything. But you know, SymQuest did a good job of ensuring that our employees are keeping their jobs. So I think that helped a little bit as well.
Right. Does anybody have any questions right now? I don't want to take over this meeting or this conversation, but for Alyssa?
Alyssa, I mean, Chris, this is Chris. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You know, one of the things one of the themes that always comes up is just trying to do things that sort of are customized for your, you know, your culture, your company.
Yep.
It sounds like you continue to do that. Obviously, the copier is a good
Yes.
a good one. You know, in past years, just to sort of keep things specific to, you know, what has worked, what people are interested in your company. Is there any? Have you thought about any other things you're going to try this year, or how the sort of hybrid, you know, sort of back, sort of not environment, what you might try and do differently as people become a little bit more, I'll say, things open up a little bit but aren't quite, you know, normal?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to bring on a second person who's newer to the company, who's part of our internal social squad. And he's had some really great ideas on like new, fresh ideas for like events and stuff and fundraising. So we're going to bring him on. Hopefully he's on board. We haven't talked to him yet, so I don't want to say a name, but he hopefully will bring some fresh ideas. So hopefully that'll be able to get people more excited as well. And then, you know, every year we kind of try and pick a theme that goes along with like the SymQuest culture. And I think that's worked really well. So the copier smash one was part of our, I think it was like sports. We tried to do a sports theme. So every event that we had that week was related to sports. So that helped. There we go. So I think just keeping everything consistent year over year so your employees know what to expect has really worked for us. Obviously changing the events helps, but keep it like the week consistent every week, as we always do it the last week of October. We try and incorporate Halloween in there somehow. It just lets people have a little bit more fun. So Yeah, does that answer your question?
Thank you. No, yeah, that's exactly. I was just
Perfect.
trying to think about, I think, yeah, obviously getting new people involved is always a good strategy, so you're freshening up ideas and layering them in. So I think that's a great approach as well. So thank you.
We really
Thank you
just
for
want,
sharing.
no problem. We just like keeping our employees excited about it as well, because we've been doing United Way for so long that I think people forget like what your mission is. So getting everyone excited about raising money for a good cause is our key focus every year.
How did
Thank
the e-pledge system work?
The e-pledge, e-pledge we've struggled with just to get people having people remember to do it. So in the past, what's worked is we open up e-pledge a week before our campaign week, and we do a specific raffle just for people who early e-pledge. So it's usually something like really big. Like I think 2 years ago it was the flat screen TV, or we do like overnight and a hockey game tickets or something like worth a lot of money to encourage people to e-pledge. And then it just reminds everyone that like, hey, this is another way to pledge, and you don't even have to think about it. It gets taken out of your paycheck. Just have to click a button online and do it. So that's what's worked for us really well, is opening up that e-pledge a week before our campaign week, and then encouraging people to do it, saying you e-pledge before this date, you automatically get entered into this raffle. That's for this larger item.
Great idea. Great idea.
Yeah, trying to drive early participation.
Yep.
And just when it's fresh in people's mind is always a great strategy. So I think that's good, thinking about higher value opportunities and the things that people value more, putting it into that bucket makes a lot of sense. So
another thing I want to mention too, we usually have an all company event that happens the week before. It's in the past, it's been our Breakfast for Champions, where we kind of do a tour across all of our branches. But this year we're doing our huge large focus event that happens every year, but this year it's virtual. And so we include a portion of the United Way. Like we have a plan set before that meeting, and we announce it in that meeting. So we get everyone's attention as well. So it's not all via email. So we usually try and tie it into that company event so that everyone has their ears are on us already.
Right.
So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Alyssa, or ideas or thoughts?
You can share my email in the chat so everyone can reach out to me if they have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
I actually have one. This is Dawn, and it could be for Alyssa or really any of the other organizations. Do you have employees who don't have email addresses? And if so, how do you draw attention to things for that group?
Yeah, we do not, so I won't be able to answer that.
Everybody has an email.
Yeah.
Does anybody else work with a group? Tracy or Tammy, you do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so that was actually going to be one of my questions, because so at Rhino we have 2 facilities, 3 shifts. We're probably up to 300 people. Right now there are no company meetings because of COVID. So, and that's a real struggle for us, is because not all of I'd probably say 80% of our workforce does not have email. And now that we were supposed to go back to company meetings in August, but because of the latest outbreak, that is not going to happen. So that's going to be a struggle again for us this year, is not having that direct contact. And so we're faced with the same situation.
Tammy, do you guys have some sort of a start of shift? Again, if 80% of your employees are on shift, the opportunity where they're still engaging with their leadership on shift to think of, obviously for business purposes, but that you could use as an opportunity to just bring awareness through the shift forum.
Yeah, so we do have like stretching before the production shift. But again, some of the supervisors, it's a struggle to get them to ask their employees to donate money So it's again, trying to get the right people there who don't mind saying, you know, to talk about the pledge drive. So it's, you know, it's kind of, that's a
Yeah.
little
So-
struggle that we're faced with.
some-
Yeah, again, Tammy, I think even not, making it not about like the manager asking for the give, but just using that as an opportunity for awareness. Not, having, I don't know, some sort of collateral or something about the campaign in that location with some easy way for people to participate. Or, one of the things we, did at Global Foundries was, you have within a department a person who coordinates the ask. It's not the manager, so it's not like a quote unquote company obligation. It's more on a peer-to-peer sort of approach.
Yeah.
Just finding someone who's really engaged in the community that works on that shift, who might be comfortable communicating about what's going on, and sort of enlisting them to help is just was something that worked. I mean, it worked. I don't know if it worked perfectly or well, but it's just a sort of a multi-tiered approach, might make sense. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. I wrote that down. Thank you.
no problem.
We also, I have been at shift change meetings before, and I know that they do not necessarily happen between the hours of 8 and 5. But I have been out extremely early at shift change meetings and later. So if you feel like, that would be helpful, just to have somebody to explain what's going on, that is certainly something that we could talk about.
Yeah, Carrie, I was just thinking of, our examples in the past where you've gone to, 20 branches or something as part of this, right? Just trying to think, so 4 or 5 shifts is probably not a big deal if it's an opportunity to get the message out, in a way that can be coordinated. Not trying to sign you up for anything, Carrie, but
No,
I know
we'll let Bessie go to the super early ones.
Something else that we do too, because we do have a warehouse, so all those employees, although they do have email and they do check it at least once a day, they may not, be reading it as much as our other employees do. We do print out flyers that have like the schedule of events for the week, and I like tape them up everywhere. So I put them at every station in the warehouse. I put them all over our offices. I send them to the branches and have one person in each branch hang them up everywhere. And just high traffic areas around the office, so people visually see it as well, and that does help. So it's another thing you could consider.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the conversation, and hopefully some people got something out of that. So, so next up, we're gonna take this last 35 minutes and talk about what resources are available, where can you find resources, what is this ePledge thing, what's available there. And so Cindy, Jeff, and I are going to kind of tag team this next bit, and we're going to just talk about what about it, I guess, is really, now I gotta find my, so I want to just first say that we have been working really, really hard on making sure that we have the resources easily accessible for people, so that you're not waiting for your staff person to get back to you if you need something immediately. So here is the United Way's website, and up here in this corner you'll see campaign toolkit, and this is really where all of the materials and information sit for you. Super easy to find. And so when you click on that, it takes you to this page. And this page has pledge forms and corporate pledge forms and reporting forms, but it also has information on our community investments, information on our key strategies, information on volunteer connection, which I'll show you in a little bit. And what I want to start with is the 2021 Keyperson Guide. We really, whoops, this is my home, does this for me. We really went in and revamped this guide this year to try to make it really easy for you to start your planning. I want to start, I'm going to just scroll down here a little bit, just so that you can see who the team is. So this is your entire campaign team at United Way. And Cindy Elkin and I are the two staff people that are working with the workplace campaigns this year. Ruth Ann Hackett is really focused on our individual donors. Jeff Davenport is our data coordinator who's on the call. He's going to be jumping on here in a minute. Allie DeFisher does all of our marketing and communications. Daniel is our donor relations assistant. And then Liz Gamache is our newest team member. And she really is looking at business development and donor relations under a bigger umbrella. So we're really, we feel, teed up this year to really make sure that campaigns are running as efficiently and effectively as possible. So with that, what we have done is we have created a checklist, and this Keyperson guide is obviously available to you anytime, and I will send out the link to the campaign toolkit after this training, just so you can easily get to it and not have to worry about where did she say that was again. But in here we have set up a quick checklist just to kind of walk through, you know, what types of things you should be thinking about. So the first one is to, you know, just get set up and working with your account manager. So you will be receiving, if you haven't already, an email from me or Cindy, just introducing ourselves, letting you know that we are your contact for your campaign this year. And so when you're ready to start really thinking about it, and you know, we are available, and we'll be reaching out after this training as well, just to check in and see if, you know, we can get things rolling. So the first thing obviously is to set your campaign dates. And we need to, if we could have at least, I'm going to say at least 4 weeks prior, just so that we can make sure that we work you into the timeline to make sure that the campaign is ready to launch on the date that you want to do that. So, you know, we'll be talking to you really pretty early on to see if you have any idea when your campaign is going to run. And if you know that before we get to you, please don't hesitate to email it to us so that we can make sure we have that information where we need it. Setting your fundraising goal, really thinking about, are you going to look at participation rate, or are you looking at dollars raised? How can we help support that? What type of information do you need? That sort of a thing. So Cindy and I absolutely happy to help with that and talk more about that. And then next up is to select your pledging option. So what is your campaign going to look like this year? If it's all virtual, so how do you do that? If it's hybrid, do you need e-pledge? Do you need the fillable PDF? I mean, what is going to work best for you? And so I am going to turn it over to Jeff now, and he is going to walk you through the e-pledge options that we have available, and I'll finish up with the others, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jeff, and I'm going to scroll down here.
Thank you, Carrie. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Davenport. I'm the data coordinator here at the United Way of Northwest Vermont. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see a lot of familiar faces. So as Carrie kind of just alluded to, we've always had these tools, but with the occurrence of the pandemic, we've had to move a lot of campaigns into the virtual world. And we have several options for organizations to choose from. So when you think about a traditional campaign, in the past, we've handed out paper pledge forms and asked colleagues to donate. Well, all of those pledging options that you would have on a paper pledge form exist in either ePledge or ePledge Lite. I'm going to walk you through that option, but what's important to note is that the only difference between ePledge Lite and full ePledge is customization of the language of the landing page and the welcome email. And this all makes sense in just a moment. But other than that, they're virtually the exact same option.
Did you want me to stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned, The way ePledge works is employees get a unique email to themselves that has a unique link for them to log into the ePledge system. So what I'm showing you right now is ePledge Lite. So our marketing and communications manager created great language for this year's campaign, encouraging employees to give, and also a snapshot of where we are and where we're going. So after an employee reads this email, they're all jazzed up and ready to give. They click their own unique link down here to donate now. And they land on their landing page. So again, this with ePledge Lite, the language is already created. You don't have to spend any time thinking about, well, what message do we send to our employees? It's already tailored for kind of like the best practice for running a workplace campaign. So another little blurb encouraging people to give, and then it's as simple as clicking Pledge Now. Again, all the pledging options that have existed in the past are here. You have the option of payroll deduction, which is the default option. That's what most employees choose to do. You can also give via personal check, cash, you can be billed, you can pay with securities or stock, and by credit card. I'm gonna make a fake pledge real quick. Said $5 via payroll deduction. Asks you to confirm basic contact information. There are some options to join Women United. You can select your gift to be anonymous, and you can send an automatic confirmation email when you've completed your pledge. Additionally, we have some general questions that are optional. Like, did you have a partner that gives through their workplace campaign? Say you give $500 and your partner gives $500. Well, collectively, you're at the leadership level, so you'd want to be if you choose to, you'd want to be recognized for that. We're also asking for birth date information and gender, and again, it's important to note these questions are optional. Once you've gone through this page, you'd click next, and then there's one last page. I'm not going to show it because it's going to screw something up later on, but it's important to click all the way through until you receive the confirmation email. One hiccup that employees can have is wondering whether or not they've made a donation. They'll come to you asking, did I make a donation? I have not received a confirmation email. If they didn't receive a confirmation email, they did not make a pledge. Now, in your roles, what's great about ePledge is the fact that you're not managing paper pledge forms. You're not having to track people down and ask people for their pledge forms. As an ePledge administrator, you have access to the current campaign status. This is real-time results for how your campaign is at any given point in time. You can look and see all of the individuals that have given through the transaction list. You can look up an individual. Has Joe Smith donated yet? There's all sorts of custom reporting that can be done to segment different departments. If you have interdepartmental competitions, you can pull reports to see who's winning between the departments. Additionally, you can send emails to people that have not donated. So what almost all ePledge and ePledge Lite campaigns do is halfway through the campaign, we send an email to all employees that have yet to give, encouraging them to give and saying it's not too late. And then the day before, all right, last chance, the campaign's closing tomorrow. We'd love to bring you into the fold of the United Way this year. That is at a very high level, the ePledge system. It's very easy. Truly the hardest part is getting the employee file and making sure that all of your employees are on it. Once that's done, it's pretty buttoned up. Are there any questions about ePledge? I know I covered a lot.
I will say that Jeff does do a training with the ePledge administrator or administrators, if there's more than one, prior to launching your campaign, just so that you feel comfortable with the platform.
And if an organization is not willing to give us their employees' email addresses, there is another option of single registration, where there is one link that's for the entire organization, and an employee would click that link and then create their own profile. So there is an option if organizations don't want to give us their employee information and do not want to use the fillable PDF or one of the other pledging options.
Hey, Jeff, do you, the form to put everybody's email on, where do we get that? Are you going to send us that?
Yeah, so there is a e-pledge checklist, and in that checklist, it shows what we really need is first name, last name, email address, and then any type of information that you want to have for reporting purposes, like departments or location, things like that.
Okay, and they can do it through their paycheck, or they could also just do a one-time donation?
Yep.
Through the e-pledge? Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff, I have a question. This is
Yes,
Kathy
Kathy.
from Burlington Electric.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi. Is it possible for the key person or e-pledge administrator, whoever it may be, is it possible for them to fill out a donation for the employees if the employees are not comfortable getting onto a computer to do it? I work with a bunch of linemen who are not real computer savvy. So a lot of times they'll say, yeah, you know, put me down for $5 a week, which when we first did the e-pledge trial, that's how we got most everybody in, is that they'd come up to me and say, yeah, you know, go ahead. I can't rely on email for a majority, even our people down at our McNeil station, all our yard workers and people that work overnight, a lot of times they don't even look at their email. So if we're going to have a successful campaign, I need to be able to help them along, or somebody needs to be able to help them along with their pledges. Again, DPW, a lot of guys out on the trucks and stuff that don't get their emails. So is that possible to be able to have the administrator do the entering?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't have to have that long of a question, did I?
No, it was fine. I was like, I can just show you really quick, but I don't know if that's all that productive for everybody else. But Kathy,
No,
yeah,
that's fine.
it's very easy.
Yeah, okay, and I know I did that the first year, and I assume it's probably still the same, but we can go over that as it gets closer to the time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kathy. Good question.
Thank you.
I'll just give a plug for the e-pledge. We did that last year for the first time, and it just worked really seamlessly. We still needed to have some paper pledges available for the people without email or who just resisted for some reason, but it worked really well. Super easy.
That's what I like to hear.
That's what we strive for. Excellent. Any other questions or comments for Jeff on ePledge?
I will say the majority of our donations do come from ePledge. So
Yeah, people are getting more and more used to it. You know, we understood that there was gonna, it was gonna take some time, but now I think people are rather expecting something more mobile than just a paper form. So.
And I think, like, Alyssa, you mentioned earlier, just like how the emails can sometimes get lost, or
yes.
And you also mentioned how you notify people in advance that to expect an email to be coming from right away. And I think that's one of the best things that any organization can do, is just letting their colleagues know, we're running an e-pledge campaign. You're going to be receiving an email on this date and time, just kind of giving them that little warning.
We usually have our IT team send that email too, because I mean, being a security company, we're really sensitive to the phishing emails. So we do have our IT team send like this email is safe type of email, just so our employees know. And then they are expecting it, and most of them do look for it every year too, because like I said, we've been doing this for so long that it's part of our culture at this point.
I'd just like to jump in on that one as well. I am the person who has been a key person for multiple years. I kind of forget how many now. And a lot of times, and I do a lot of other fundraisers, and people now see my email and will automatically put me in a delete file. So in order to avoid that, I have the general manager send out an email, and that way it comes from him. They probably like him better than me, and then we tend to get more response that way.
Kathy Chamberlain is a former Keyperson of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, all the great work she's done with the city of Arlington, for sure.
Tracy, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
Kathy, I feel your pain. I'm a development person, so when they see me coming, I get the same reaction. I did have a quick question for people. I'd love to hear how perhaps some people incentivize people. Alyssa gave a lot of really great examples about how she kicked off her campaign and some of the things they did to sort of dangle the carrot, if you will, with beer and all sorts of other things. And we certainly can do that, but I haven't really been too successful other than I was able to get our HR director to give people days off, paid days off as an incentive. But I would really love to hear how some people sort of kicked off the campaign and incentivized their colleagues to participate.
I would be more than happy to raise my hand. Oops, sorry. But I can't figure out where the raise the hand thing is on the Zoom thing. So if you don't mind, I can jump in. As far as from my experiences, you get a lot of attention when you have things that you can give to the employee. We being an electric company, we do a lot of work with various vendors all around, the New England, every place. And I will take that list of vendors and actually reach out and ask for donations. And they've been incredibly receptive. I also do the thing, whoever, donates on this particular day when we start the campaign, our general manager gives us $200, which I break down into $25 gift cards. And that's what we give out for the first day pledges. And then we kind of keep doing that. If I get really large items, over the years, we've gotten Celtics and Bruins tickets. Last couple of years, we weren't able to get those because of COVID, but those are huge. So I put those into a silent auction. And I open that up to the whole city. So there's a lot of different things, but I find that if the employees have something that they're going to get, or they have an incentive, even though we think that the United Way is incentive enough, you know where I'm going. So yeah, that's how that whole thing works.
I will say our 50-50 raffle is also pretty large because they do get half of that money that's raised. And so there's been years where we've gotten up to $1,000 like raised total with that. And so whoever gets pulled out of that raffle gets that $500. And so, it definitely incentivizing your employees with something that they can receive out of it and just making it fun and exciting. Those themed weeks that we do, whether it be virtual or not, everything that you do is around that theme, and it just gets people like, oh, this is cool. So something else, I went back and looked at what we did last year as well, just to remind myself. We did trivia nights, and so everyone had to pay like $1 or $2 or something to join the trivia night, and we had one every day. So something else, like it's like games and stuff like that people can play and have fun with.
Yeah, Tracy, in previous trainings, there's been things like, there's been the idea of like a parking space, or again, days off is a common one. And then, I think a classic is just trying to leverage those for, again, like early participation. We've had examples in the past of, let's say you've got 5 things. The biggest is given out to everyone who pledged on the first day, and the next best is on people who pledged on day 2. And just, trying to leverage what you have, whatever it is, whether it be days off or, a physical item or a parking space or, extra dunk tank balls for the general manager. It's just, thinking about how to leverage those towards early participation, I think is a classic maneuver. And it just, you use what you have to drive that, whatever it is, or whatever it is that works at your company.
And just, we have quite a network of organizations, including United Way, who run campaigns every year and are more than willing to share their ideas and things that they've come up with. So if you're looking for ideas and you want to let Cindy and I know, you know, we can connect you in with businesses. I know Hickok and Boardman, very, very willing to share their things, just so everybody knows they're kicking off on Monday. And if you want to see what they're doing as far as a Facebook Live event, they will be going on Facebook Live every day, Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. And they have Jesse kicking off on Monday, and then they have 3 speakers for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And their focus really was around supporting families this year. And so we were able to align those speakers around that messaging. So if you want to get a good idea, feel free to watch that event whatever day, but it's every day next week at 10 a.m. So, but we have a lot of businesses that are more than willing to talk to you or share ideas or, you know, whatever it is that you need. So.
Thank you.
Tracy, this is Ruth Mary Trowell, and I'm with Food Science, so this is my first year doing this. But previous to this, at my previous company, Comcast, one of the things that we did that was hugely successful for us was we had all our leaders donate something, and people bid on lunch with a leader, a round of golf with a leader. So each leader sort of put together their own, all our senior leadership team put together their own little evening out, you know, a dinner and tickets to the Flynn to go with them to dinner and a show. Those became hugely popular for employees to bid on, and the senior leadership, you know, they did it out of their own pocket. So we didn't really need to find any resources for that. And that was hugely successful for us as well.
A great idea. I love that idea.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Well, I do not want to stop this conversation for sure. It's great. I just want to show you a little bit more of the campaign toolkit, just so you know what's there and what you can find other than the Keyperson Training Guide. So let me just scoot back here a little bit. There we go. So, and again, you know, if you forget and you ask us for the information, Cindy or I, we will, you know, just redirect you here. It's always available. So other than the pledge forms, I just wanted to show you the community funding lists. These are always documents that, you know, organizations are really interested in. This really shows under each strategy what organizations were funded. And so it gives you an idea around, you know, people are genuinely interested in this information. So this is something that's available that you can share. Any of this information on this toolkit, you can share with your colleagues. You can take bullets out of it and create, you know, a campaign messaging for the week, or, you know, we can help you with that as well. Here's the key strategy infographic that Jesse mentioned earlier. So, you know, any information that you need about the campaign and the work that we're doing is here. And if it's not, please just feel free to ask Cindy or I or anybody on the United Way staff what you're looking for, and we will, if it's not there, we will get it for you. Here's information on our volunteer connection, which is sponsored by SymQuest. Really, this is something that people really don't know about. This is the ability for individuals and organizations to connect with volunteer opportunities. Our nonprofit partners put in opportunities, and people can register for the volunteer connection. They can click on what types of things they're interested in, and then you can get an email if, say, for instance, you're interested in mentoring. Something comes up under mentoring, you get a quick email that says something's been added under mentoring. It might be something you're interested in. This is a resource that we are really trying to get the businesses to understand, so that they can not only use it within their businesses, but also encourage their employees who want to volunteer to use it. So this, you know, you can add this to whatever it is for your campaign, or hang it up around your office. So, and then we have our campaign talking points here. A lot of businesses will go in and use these bullets, and create, add it to their daily email reminder about the campaign, or, use it however you want to use it. But there really is, there's bullets on the campaign theme. There's bullets on our investments and, things that we're working on there. And then we have the racial equity and social justice bullets that you can use, and then other ways to engage with United Way. So, lots of information here, everything available to you that you can share. We've got the campaign poster, which is an 11 by 17. We've got the ever loving thermometer poster that you can download and use if you so choose. Jesse mentioned working bridges, and people often wonder what the heck that is. So we have a information sheet on that program. So if you're curious about that or want to share this with your HR rep, feel free to do that. So there's just a lot of information out there that we wanted to make sure was easily accessible for everybody to just be able to run, and not be waiting for Cindy and I to get, to answer and respond with information. So questions on this list that I can answer? And Cindy, is there anything I'm forgetting that you want to add?
I think you got it, Carrie. I don't have anything to add.
Great.
Yep, thanks.
Anybody have any questions or comments or anything, even going back to the previous discussion, questions about campaigns, anything that we can do to be helpful? Jeff has a couple of poll questions that I know he wanted to put up. So Jeff, if you want to run those now, that would be great. I will stop sharing. There they are. First one anyway. Stop the share. There we go. Jeff, are you gonna?
What, Carrie?
You gonna put up the polling questions, or have you been doing that?
It's already up.
Oh, awesome, great. So as Jeff puts up these last polling questions, I just we're really, really excited to work with you this year. Cindy and I are gathering getting everything together right now. We'll be starting to do some pretty major outreach next week. And as I said earlier, we're both here to answer questions. And if you are talking to people and they want to know why your business is running a United Way campaign and has any interest in learning about why their business might want to run a United Way campaign, we would love to talk to businesses that are interested, always willing to look at bringing on some new partners, or partners that had run in the past and maybe stepped away for a little while. So we have about 160 businesses involved in this campaign every year, but we are always willing to obviously talk to new partners. So feel free to send those either to Cindy or I, and we'll go ahead and take care of it from there. Jesse or Liz, do you guys have anything you want to add before we close out right at about 1:30 too? Look at that, 3 minutes to go.
Exciting discussion. It's going to be a great campaign season, and it was really interesting to hear your feedback and ideas on how to run a successful campaign. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Liz. Awesome.
There's one more polling question. I'm just kidding. There's one person that hasn't answered yet that answered the previous question.
And obviously what you answer here does not mean it's cast in stone. If things change or things need to be moved around a little bit, that's great. These questions are really just to give us some sort of idea as we start the planning process with each individual campaign. So.
the last one.
Awesome. Thank you. Chris, as we close out, is there anything that you wanted to add?
No, it's always great to be able to talk about ideas and, get people thinking about, how to run a campaign. It's always exciting to come out of these and just hear people continuing to think of new ways to do things. So, obviously, thank you everyone for showing the passion for, the United Way and the campaign, and for being here for the training this year. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you, Chris, for all the support. I truly appreciate it. We wouldn't be as strong of an organization if we didn't have such great volunteers. So thank you so much.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, I will say goodbye, and you'll be hearing from Cindy or I very, very soon. So be well, all. Enjoy this beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you,
Take
everyone.
care. Bye.
Right on time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank
Great
you
job.
all.